Hello there everybody, this is Alex from Hardcoring Guides, bringing you my guide for Deadpool on Ultra Violence difficulty. Today we're doing Chapter 3 entitled Taking a Chance. There's a lot of things that come to my mind when I hear that word. I kind of think that they were almost about to say, taking a something else. Maybe that could just be the in-joke that I don't get. Maybe there's a joke with that, I don't know. All jokes aside, yes, I did die there. It's basically insta-kill at this point. Something I want to mention real quick before we get too far into this is that I did get a couple of upgrades in the last chapter and I forgot to explain one of them. And that upgrade is pretty much every time you do about, I think, 8 hits with whether it's your gun or your melee, then you get a small boost in health. And I also upgraded max health in general, so now we're at 125. And I think in this chapter, I eventually learn the next momentum for the swords, and we'll be showing off most of the upgrades that I get because I don't really die. Typically, whenever I die, I try to show off all the upgrades I can, but just keep in mind that I'm basically upgrading swords, pistols, and regular run-of-the-mill health, or Deadpool abilities as I go through the game. When it comes to it, you don't really need upgrades. They're very, very helpful, trust me. This game would be much harder if you didn't have upgrades. If it was a no upgrade run, it would be way harder. But for the most part, upgrades aren't exactly a necessity, but they're more so they would really, really, really benefit you big time. Also, I don't remember this boss's name. I know Vertigo and Blockbuster, but I don't remember her name. And I'm not really a big, giant X-Men / Deadpool type person, so... apologies for that, for not knowing. I think it's I don't know, Slasher or something. It's... I forget. I don't remember. But it's a specific word that I can't think of on the top of my head. But disregarding that, down here in the sewer area, which I think we're pretty much kind of in, you're pretty much just kind of stuck fighting a couple of these gun guys down here. But once you go up there, you'll be fighting a lot of melee enemies. And as you can see, that guy jumped in from the left. I'm also getting attacked from behind, too. And getting ambushed is not a good thing to have, of course. I mean, this is still a tad bit of a shooter, so, ambushes can happen. But that's kind of more my fault for accidentally letting the guy behind me. If worse comes to worse and your guns have the ability to do the momentum attack, then the L1 circle momentum gun attack, especially for the pistols, is really good because well, I also upgraded my combo and my sword right there. But it's really good because not only do you get really long amounts of time for invincible frames, for iframes, but you also earn, I'm trying to think here real quick, because we just unlocked, I think, the next upgrade for the swords to allow me to brutal kill enemies that are standing up. So that's something that, I don't know if anybody might have watched the last episode or not, but for those that are curious, going for stun kills, basically whenever the enemies are stunned, going for those execution kills is what I typically try to do, and going for upgrades and knocking them in the air. We also unlocked that move too, which I didn't know what it was supposed to do, so there's that. But anyway, back to the L1 circle move. It lasts for a good while, it has a lot of iframes, and you get health back because if you happen to have done what I did and upgraded your Deadpool character, I guess you could say. If you upgraded Deadpool to the point where he could earn health back for a certain amount of hits, then that's a really good momentum to use because you do get quite a lot of hits out of it. The other one in question that does do a decent a decent amount of hits is going to be your regular sword triangle slashes. The triangle heavy attack does a pretty decent amount of combo, which will also, of course, not only gain you extra health if you have that upgrade, but will also help you in the long run when it comes to getting Deadpool points for your combo stuff, too. Speaking of butt, look at Deadpool's ass. But anyway, so there's the momentum ability, which I think is L1 square or triangle. I know what triangle is now. Okay, I know what triangle version is now. Square. I'm going based on the PlayStation version, so I do apologize for anybody that might be a little confused. But it's roughly, I assume, probably about the same. Also, Ninja Turtles reference. There you go. Yeah, for Xbox, it'd just be L1 and X, something like that. So, yeah. Anyway, the L1 square has, if you charge it up fully, it does like a spin attack. It takes a while to charge up, but you're in complete iframes the entire time. You are completely invulnerable, not really iframes, but you're just completely invulnerable the entire time. And that's extremely helpful, and the slash itself does do a decent amount of hits and damage, but if you're really looking for hits, like huge combo stuff, then L1 triangle is a best bet. So upgrading swords fully to that point would help. Now, do keep in mind that even if you do upgrade your swords right now, if you do use the other weapons that are available, the other melee weapons like the hammers and the sickle or the sais, then you will have to re-upgrade those to the point where you unlock those upgrades again. Also, these guys are really pathetically easy a lot of the time. You just go for headshots and they just go down pretty fast. Nothing too special about them, besides they do quite a bit of damage if you get close to them. But realistically speaking, at this point, you know, when you're fighting just one of them, getting close to them is just probably not going to happen unless you go for momentum. And typically, you really want to go for momentum is you either need to get that health back, or just, you know, time to regenerate health, or whatever the case, or you just need iframes for whatever reason, for anything really, or just even like a tad bit of damage. The L1X momentum on those guys doesn't really work the best, but, you know, you can use it for iframes if you needed it. However, I would recommend, especially when they're in groups later on in the game, I would definitely recommend going for the L1 square move, the one where you charge it up and you hold square and then you just let it loose and you slash it through enemies and such. But yeah, the execution move right there, that's that's a thing that I eventually tend to kind of rely on, especially like late game, because end game is a pain in the ass to get through, and it's pretty damn notorious. I assume most people who play Deadpool definitely know how much of a pain in the dick that one truly is. And speaking of a pain in the dick, I think I probably shot that guy right in the crotch. Not really sure. But yeah, you know, just actually, something I should explain real quick is these guys are much tankier than the last versions. And for me personally, the best way to deal with, you know, these assholes is to either knock them in the air and then go for combos, because I feel like it's faster to do combos in the air. I feel like it does a little bit more damage. I've not exactly fully tested that, but I just get the assumption that that's the case because it looks like it works that way. But typically for them, it's just go for execution moves. Like, don't bother with trying to take them down. Don't bother with trying to out-damage them or whatever, because they're just too damn tanky to deal with. We're just small, you know, minion-type enemies, especially level 2. You know, yes, this is Chapter 3, but this is essentially the second actual playable level fully when it comes to combat. So, yeah. Of course, your parry is based on whatever weapon you have at the time that happens to have the upgrade at all, so that's something else to kind of bear in mind too. If you're going to go for parries like I do with the sword parries, which are really, really helpful, then you definitely want to have your swords out for that. But of course, the pistol ones are okay. They just stop the guys right in their tracks. Nothing too fancy. So this is the introduction of the new type of enemy, and it's relatively self-explanatory what to do. But essentially, the idea is to, you know, take out the guy that has defense on, because for the most part, your damage on the enemies that happen to have that defense buff, whenever they have that defense buff, they are incredibly a lot harder to kill. I think you technically still could do some damage, but it's probably just weird enough to where it's not really reliable anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just go for the guy that has it. So this is... Oh, Arclight. That's her name. Okay, yes. So this is Arclight, and whenever she does that stun move on you, and when Deadpool is glowing orange, like he did earlier that you saw, what you can do is you can go for a parry and basically, you know, do a bit of damage to her and knock her back a little bit alongside getting rid of that stun. So whenever she does that, go for the parry and then launch her in the air and just keep mashing light attacks. I couldn't skip these parts, so I also just, for some reason, let them in because I thought they wouldn't be too long. They're not really that bad, but yeah, with her fight, I typically just kind of rely on guns mostly, and if she gets kind of close, I just go for uppercut moves and just kind of juggle her in the air, because since we're falling down, it seems like she doesn't really, you know, fall, I guess you could say. She tends to kind of stay in the air a lot. That move right there, that slash move, is relatively pretty telegraphed. I I didn't have a hard time dealing with her, like, at all, to be fair, in any of her versions, whether or not it's this one or the Final Fight version of her, which, yes, that's a thing. They clone the bosses to fight you at the end. It's kind of ridiculous, but an attack like that ground attack, doesn't really matter much. It doesn't fully kill me, but at the same time, it also does that stun thing, which allows me to go for a free parry, which is nice. It allows you to get a free Tyler parry, so, you know, why not, right? And then other than that, she's basically just a regular minion, like a run-of-the-mill minion. There's really not much going for her at all. But yeah, I was going to say, like, that slash move is relatively telegraphed. I don't know if it's just years of playing hack and slash games, if I've just gotten used to this shit with reaction times or what, but I just feel like it's relatively simple to dodge. It's just that slam one that I have trouble with dodging. But this is Vertigo, and Vertigo's fight right now, which is really not much of a fight, it's mostly just a puzzle section, and all you really gotta do is just hit on the levers. There is I think there's a trophy for killing all the enemies in this area before you do all the levers or some stuff like that. I don't remember. Some shite. But I just decided to go for the lever thing and just not deal with the psychic enemies. I don't know what they're called exactly, but I just gonna call them the psychic enemies because they're gonna be... Well, they use a lot of like magic psychic stuff and they work with Vertigo, so, you know, why not? One thing that I did, as you saw earlier, was I just knocked the enemy off the ledge. And that's something that can also come in handy too, especially if you happen to have a lot of areas where there's a lot of fall. You know, there's a steep fall that one can go down and you get that kill. And it should, in theory, count toward your Deadpool points. It should. I don't see why it wouldn't. But yeah, after that's all over, said and done, which I didn't pull all of them, but oh well. Or I didn't get the trophy, but who cares? I don't remember what the trophy was. I think it's like maybe like in 2 minutes or some crap like that. I don't know. Oh, taking a chance. Okay, so we're going after... that's right. Okay. I forgot what the whole point of the joke was. But yeah, you can see like they basically phase walk through walls, and they don't do it right now, but in the future... In future parts, they will definitely phase through walls a lot more often and be a much more bigger nuisance than what they are here. So, once again, another platforming section. And I mentioned this in the last video, but I genuinely actually enjoy the platforming in Deadpool. I think it's just enough to where it's not a constant nuisance, and it's done well enough to where it feels okay to do. I don't really have a lot of problems with the platforming. I actually enjoy the double jumping. I think it's kind of fun. And they don't really over-rely on the platforming sections too much for a hack and slash shooter. I don't know what you'd call it. I personally consider this more of a hack and slash than anything else, but that's just me. Because I feel like a lot of the enemies just rely on mostly just melee stuff. And hacking and slashing tends to be kind of more the forefront of it. But it works pretty well with both. So right here, I'm still kind of learning the whole L1 square thing. I don't know why I was being stupid and thinking for some reason that I wouldn't have iframes, even though my other moves did. But that's just what it is. Also, I'm getting kind of a big combo on these guys, mainly, again, because they're tankier than shit. And I just don't like that aspect. When it comes to guns, though, they seem to have a pretty damn huge weakness to guns. So I would also recommend, if you want to, you know, take them out a little faster, go for those headshots. And just not have to deal with their crap. But if you want bigger combos, then these guys are probably your safest bet. I would assume this is something else I didn't test out really until now, or until thinking about it now. But I probably won't either. Something I probably could have tried testing out if I thought about it earlier was testing to see if maybe you can get combos on enemies that have the defense buff. I could always just wait until I see another video where they pop up again, but we'll see. Okay, so this part, you're basically fighting that crystallized blue guy again, but now he's red with a cannon. And since it's just a single fire cannon, it does have splash damage, which is a bit annoying. But for the most part, it's not that bad. You just do the same thing you did to the last guy. And I got really lucky there when I jumped at the same time that he punched me away. But I'd recommend staying in this little small round area and just continually running away. And yeah, I'd also say probably upgrade I'd say upgrade damage right there rather than rate of fire, but, you know, do you, of course. If you're starving for bullets, more should, you know, appear, like, right there. And typically, whenever it comes to firefights like this, they typically always give you some ammo. But, yeah, go for headshots. And these guys right here, I'd say pick up the cannon and blast them. I just kind of did what I wanted and didn't think about using the cannon. I don't know. I was on hard mode. I kind of just thought, nah, the hell with it. You know, if they come near me, I'm just going to go for the tricky shots like I always do. But if you want to save yourself some trouble and some time, then I would suggest picking up that cannon that the guy dropped, that equalizer thing or whatever the hell it was, that they said it was. I don't know. I saw the word equalizer, unless it was for something else. It might just be called fire cannon or something. Oh, no, grenade launcher. Okay. Yeah, I kind of fudged up, but it's got a decent amount of bullets, and it does a decent amount of damage. Typically about 1 to 2 shots, some enemies, especially this early on, so I'd say it's probably worth doing. But anyway, that's pretty much the end of the chapter. The rest of the chapter is just sliding down this fun little slide. I left it in here because I actually enjoy this section. I enjoy playing it. It does get a little bit rough later, and if you take a hit, you are going to be practically almost near death. So I wouldn't really say this is more of like this is a bit of a memorization type thing, but it's also a bit of a reaction thing too. And if you really just want to avoid most of the attacks, just kind of, you know, stay in the middle and then move accordingly. But anyway, that's it for this, so take care, everybody.